Hello, everybody, and welcome to the White Hatter YouTube News Show. I'm Brandon.
I'm Darren.
Let's get into some news topics, shall we?
In the news.
First news topic that really sparked my interest last week was some research
I know where you're
suggesting
going with this
if
one.
the mute button in your video
I know
conferencing
where you're
app
going with this one.
actually mutes your microphone.
Okay, let me make a prediction. No.
Kinda. So the researchers went out and they interviewed a bunch of people and they asked them, what do you think happens when you press the mute button on your Zoom and Skype and other apps?
Well, nobody can hear what it is I'm saying, obviously. Like, it's not being recorded.
Yeah, people reported that the mic just shuts off.
Yeah.
Well, not really. So the researchers did here is that they looked at the code in the conferencing apps we use, and they determined that not necessarily your data. A lot of times, your data from your microphone, the sounds and what, are actually going to the company, to their servers. It's just that they choose not to process that data. So it's not exactly as muted as you might think it is. And they looked at the privacy policies, and none of them really stated that that's what happens when you press mute, because people have the impression you press mute, microphone shuts off. No, it's just the software just chooses not to keep a record of the data.
Did they mention this in their privacy policy?
That's what the research found, and they found no, they didn't.
No.
So
A little shady, right?
Yeah.
A little shady.
So, maybe when you're looking at a microphone to use, like an external microphone, maybe looking at one that has maybe like a physical switch or something that shuts it off at the microphone.
But this only applies if it's app-based, not web-based, right?
Yeah, the web-based ones where you connect via your browser, the microphone is controlled by your browser, so there's a level of protection there.
Gotcha.
And I'm not saying this is all bad per se. The companies aren't reportedly using this data for malicious, evil purposes.
But the data's there, right?
If it's being saved or recorded, we don't know. The fact is, data is going to the servers.
Yeah.
It's a matter of they just reportedly choose not to process the data to make it public to the people who you're conferencing with.
The moral to the story here is when you're using an app-based mute button on some of these conferencing apps that are out there or programs that are out there, unless you have an on-off button on your microphone, consider the mic hot. Right? Consider that it's hot and
The
it's picking up
data
what it
is
is
still leaving your computer and going to the company's servers.
Yeah.
It's not as if people in your group can still hear you because you mute it in the software, but there is a potential
interesting.
risk.
Little shady. They don't talk about it in their privacy statement. So
Very interesting. And next article, Meta reportedly plans to release its first AR glasses in 2024, according to reports.
Meta is the new name for Facebook and its family. Didn't Facebook already release a Facebook Ray-Ban sunglass?
You're thinking of their camera-enabled glasses. So Facebook did recently release sunglasses with cameras built in.
They look very similar to that.
Yeah.
But they weren't AR.
No.
So what's the difference between AR and VR?
VR is a completely virtual environment, so
Right.
everything you see is virtualized. Usually you sit down and experience VR.
Right.
AR is augmented, so you see your reality. You got little graphics that pop up in front of you.
I kind of use the analogy of AR is like when you're watching movies with people in fighter jets and they have the screen in front of them and they can see targets. That would be artificial AR. Virtual reality would be like if you're a pilot learning how to do a dogfight, you're in a simulator.
Yeah, similar to that, yeah.
Interesting. So they're coming out with these glasses?
That's what the current reports, according to insiders, are suggesting is 2024, and the second model coming out in 2026, and the more third iteration is 2028.
You know what's interesting? I just read an article today, actually, where there was a survey done in the United States with teens, and the teens were saying that VR is not as big as what adults make it out to be to their generation. They're actually more interested in AR. Right? Artificial intelligence, because it still allows them to act or operate within the online world, out in reality. It was an interesting article that I read.
Yeah, VR definitely has a cost barrier to entry.
Yeah.
I mean, for a proper VR set,
And
you're
they're
looking
big.
You're looking at not that big.
Well, though, like the Oculus is a good example. Can you imagine walking around with that on your
Yeah,
head?
no. Like I said, VR is not meant for like out in the public. They're more meant for in your house, in a couch kind of thing.
Whereas AR is.
Yeah. And it's a cost entry. So, a proper VR set is going to cost you about 1,500 Canadian-ish dollars.
I mean, a good example of AR, wouldn't like Pokemon Go kind of be considered a form of AR?
Yeah,
where you
Pokemon Go is AR.
Yeah, I mean,
And there's tons of AR apps out there.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I haven't seen reports on how successful the Facebook Ray-Ban glasses camera have been, but I'm assuming that was kind of a test launch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just to test the technology, see if it would work.
I definitely haven't seen as much public backlash compared to when Google Glass first came out. When you were,
you look like a robot, or Boba Fett, where the that aiming thing comes down. And,
yeah.
I'm still waiting for Apple to come out with their AR glasses. Right? We keep hearing the rumors about it. So
true.
Being an Apple
it
fanboy,
is kind of a race, right? We saw the race for smartphone dominance.
Yeah.
So now it's a matter who can be first to market with AR, which I would hypothesize as being the next iteration of the smartphone.
Yep, for sure.
Why have something in your pocket when you can have something physically on you?
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. So I'm looking forward to Apple. Being the Apple fanboy I am, as you know, and the viewers know. So next one.
DuckDuckGo announces a new privacy-focused Mac web browser. So kind of on the same notion as the Brave browser that has grown in popularity over the last few years. DuckDuckGo, which I guess is more so known as a privacy-focused search engine.
Yeah, because we recommend it. At the high school level and the middle school level, we talk about privacy issues and how we got to start protecting our privacy more. And one of the things we say is, rather than using Google search, you think about using DuckDuckGo. Although it may not be as robust as Google, it does a really good job. But now they're coming out with their own browser.
Yeah, so right now, last week, they launched their browser as an invite-only beta, so we should expect it to become...
later this year.
Probably pretty soon.
Great idea.
Where it will have enhanced privacy features built in by default, so making sure connections are by default encrypted, better cookie and tracking control, integration, greater integration with privacy and password managers. So
good idea.
Brave, really good. We've seen a good
Firefox is another one.
Firefox is good. I would say in terms of privacy, it's
not as good as Brave.
Brave has some more built-in things on by default. Firefox has good tools, but you actually kind of have to go in as a user and enable those tools. So it's kind of like a middle ground.
So we'll see what DuckDuckGo does. But it's a great idea, right? Like it's putting lots of... I still remember when Google tried to buy DuckDuckGo and they said, whack, whack, no.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to see on how... with technology and the ability to kind of easily build your own apps and programs, it's becoming easier to build alternatives to some of the big names that exist.
Yeah. And what the beautiful thing about DuckDuckGo is, unlike Google Chrome and Google Search, they don't collect and sell your personal data, right?
True.
So, yeah. And I think as society becomes more hyper vigilant to the issue of privacy, I think you're going to see people turning more to Brave, to Firefox, to DuckDuckGo as they become more popular and more powerful. So, and I hope DuckDuckGo stands fast in that, because always it's the lure of money, right? Like it might be hard for them to turn away $5 billion offer on their company, right?
True.
But you just got to hope that they stand fast, right? So
I should probably watch last night's John Oliver show.
Oh, I watched. Did I tell you like last show?
The previous show on how he collected the data from potential lawmakers in the U.S.
And
I wonder what happened with that.
I don't know, holding him hostage. I'm sure he got letters from lawyers going, "You do that, we're going to sue you," right? But I'm
public
sure
information. That was perfect.
I'm sure he checked with his lawyers first before he did it.
In an unregulated environment, what are you going to do, right?
Exactly.
All right. Next and last news story. Account takeover, poised to surpass malware as the #1 security concern facing internet users. So the Javelin Research annual identity fraud study concluded from 2020 to 2021, there was a 90% increase in account takeovers, equaling a roughly $11 billion valuation.
I can say that the #1 message that we get from teens, both middle schools and high school teens, is probably the biggest concern that we deal with now is account takeovers, primarily on Instagram, where their Instagram accounts are not being hacked, they're being taken over.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, how does that happen what is the most common way that an account takeover takes place?
There's three common strategies how a hacker can take and steal someone's account. Number one, they send them a fake website that looks to be the proper login.
So phishing.
They put in the password, put the username, and it captures that, steals it, and that's how they get it.
Right.
Number two, is through maybe someone has the same password all the time.
Right.
Maybe there was a breach or there was some kind of other hack where someone's password's out in the public.
Right.
So if your password on IG, it's the same as your old, I don't know, gaming account that got hacked years ago.
Right.
Someone's going to try the same password.
And we know about 84% of people use the same passwords on multiple platforms.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
So those are some of the most common ways how passwords are stolen.
And so having a password manager helps to deal with that issue. But two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, if the site or app offers it, should be something that we encourage because it would help to kind of offset this.
Yeah, whereby if you're logging in from a different device, you'll be prompted for a 6-8-digit code, normally texted to your phone.
Right.
And if the hacker doesn't have your physical phone or phone number accessible to them, which, again, if you're looking at could it happen, of course, it's the internet.
Right.
Anything's
Anything
possible.
happen, yeah.
But it definitely adds a bit of warning and deterrence for people who might have your password.
Right.
So, yeah. Account takeovers, number one security concern. We've seen that over the past 10 or so years.
And the other cool thing about two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you get a code coming to your phone, it tells you somebody actually does have your password. So it would be important to change it. Right?
It's a good warning sign.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's because if you didn't log in, then who did? Because in order to get the code, you have to be able
Yeah.
to successfully log in with your password.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a good warning sign as well. Just make sure you set your phone number not to be ported. You secure that. And that's
Yeah.
a whole other concern. And
Yeah.
the RC hackers trying to get ways around two-factor.
Yeah.
Takes more time, takes more labor. Most hackers are pretty lazy.
And a lot of people don't know, and again, that's a whole different topic, that when it comes to your cell phone, porting isn't on by default, right? You have to...
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, you have to connect with your cell phone provider to ask them to prevent your phone from being ported without your permission.
Because it's harder for them when you want to change to a different carrier.
Exactly.
They have to do these loops and things to go through, and they don't want the extra labor, so they just turn it, make it easier.
Yeah.
And that's our show.
Quick show.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah,
and
you bet.
We'll see you all next week.
See ya.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.